Some Iron Bowl facts. Alabama leads the series 40-33, only one tie. Now remember, the teams did not play for 40 years between 1908 and 1948. Now the game has been played in 4 cities: Auburn, Birmingham, Montgomery, and Tuscaloosa. The first time the Iron Bowl was broadcast nationally on TV was November 26, 1964, a game the Tide won 21-14. It's a series rich in tradition and bragging rights, but the 2 head coaches say none of that will matter on Friday.
It's great to have an opportunity to play in games that are meaningful like this to so many people, and there's so much interest in. And it's a great opportunity to play against a great team. But at the same time, you want to focus on the game.
You got to really capture your emotions and bottle them up, and you got to be ready to play, at game time on Friday. So, and like I said before in this game, somebody in this game every year will go down in history for a play or a series of plays, or that usually happens in these type of rivalry games.
Rodney, last year Alabama was undefeated, playing for a national championship. This year, a little role reversal. It's Auburn that comes in unblemished and playing for a spot in the national championship game with a couple of more wins. But there's also the question of schedule. Of course, you could say this every year, but Alabama with a very difficult road schedule this year in the SEC. Auburn with about as favorable a schedule as you could have up to this point. There are 3 road games, period, not just in the SEC, but there are 3 road games at Mississippi State, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss. Of course, they do have to play at Alabama on Friday, but that's a question a lot of people have been kicked around. If the schedules were reversed, do you think the roles would be reversed?
Well, they're not, so I don't know that it really matters. It'd be very difficult to, project that. But certainly I think when you look at Auburn, Gary, and Cam Newton has never experienced an atmosphere like he's going to experience on Friday. And I mean, that, again, it may elevate his play, who knows, but it's certainly something that he has not experienced.
And in fairness, when you play the schedule reversal game like that, you'd also have to point out, if Alabama were undefeated, though, they would be going to Auburn. And I think that obviously that would be a much tougher situation than
certainly
it would be
this
playing
year.
at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it is what it is, and Auburn's undefeated. Alabama's got 2 losses, still a fine football team. And basically, if you look at these 2 teams, you can make a comparison that they're even, despite the record. Certainly Las Vegas thinks Alabama has a slight edge at home. The Tide is a 4-point favorite. All right, time to take some phone calls. They're lined up for us, so let's start off with talking to Tim in Coleman. Tim, welcome into TITV.
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Doing great, Tim.
Hey, I just wanted to mention about, Coach Davis, saying something about that we need to wrap up when we tackle on defense and make sure we stay at home.
Yeah, Tim, great points. I mean, we've talked a lot about that. You've got to be assignment sound against Cam Newton, and then when you get your opportunity to tackle him, you need to make the play, because there's no guarantee if you miss him that anybody else is going to touch him. If he gets in a little bit of space, man, he's trouble. So yeah, you've got to be sound in your assignments. At the same time, keep your eyes on him, know where he's at, and then make the play.
Another thing that makes him so, it's why you got to keep him, when he's throwing the ball, you got to keep him in the pocket, Gary, because once he slips outside and starts moving on the run, he is so dangerous. Defensive backs get lost, the ability to throw the ball on the run, and again, when the defensive lineman gets past him, his ability to run and make big plays. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, proof of how good he is, LSU is as good a tackling team as there is in the Southeastern Conference, and he just went through them like a hot knife through butter. I mean, he's an amazing football player. All right, Trey in West Blocton is with us. Trey, how you doing, my friend?
I'm stupendous. How are you?
Doing great.
Yeah, I was wondering, in terms of recruiting and Iron Bowl outcome, as ludicrous as it might sound, are there any decisions, regardless of prospect classification or commitment status?
All right, Trey, yeah, good question. A lot of people ask that every year, and there are players that watch that game, no doubt. But Rodney, it's been our experience, and particularly yours, you followed it, for a living for quite a while. Usually the outcome of that game doesn't affect recruiting that much. I know fans seem to think that it does, but when it's all said and done, it's just one ball game, and most of the time a player is going to make a decision where to go to school, not based on what happens in that game.
And again, there have been instances where it has. I think, you can look back at, maybe the momentum, a team gets momentum and certainly, gives the impression that they're the team in the state at that point, and I think it's happened a few times, but very rarely. I think most guys have a favorite one way or another, but regardless if they do or they don't, it's not going to be based on one game.
All right, Joseph in Tuscaloosa, you stay on hold. We're going to get to you after the break. We got more phone calls and emails to come up, but first, a look back at the history of this terrific in-state rivalry known as the Iron Bowl.
Alabama and Auburn renew their football rivalry after 41 years.
Here's Stabler, keeping himself. Stabler now cuts in.
Well, I ain't never been done with a winner.
It's good! It's good! It's like 3, 2, 1, touchdown!
We have an opponent in this state that we work every day, 365 days a year, to dominate.
As always, Rodney and I are outfitted tonight in original elephant wear from the locker room located on the University Strip in Tuscaloosa. The locker room's been in business for 46 years, so you know they know something about taking care of their customers. And the original elephant wear is the rage all over the state of Alabama. If you don't believe me, just come to an Alabama football game. You'll see people wearing it, whether it's a shirt, a pullover, a tie, a pair of pants. Elephant wear is taking Tuscaloosa and Alabama by storm. Check them out Monday through Saturday or give them a visit on the web. You can actually look at the inventory and order clothes from the locker room on the internet. Okay, back to the phones. Joseph got tired of holding, but he did leave his question. He wants to know if Alabama beats Auburn and Oregon. It beats Auburn, and if Oregon and Boise State both lose, which BCS Bowl will Alabama play in? Well, Joseph, I don't know if they'll play in a BCS Bowl regardless of what happens if they beat Auburn. You got South Carolina and Auburn both in the SEC Championship game. We'll just have to see. Real quickly, CB, we don't have a lot of time. What you got on your mind?
I ain't got much on my time. Happy Thanksgiving to y'all and the station. And I'm running low on nerve pills, and let's beat Auburn. Good
All right, CB, good call. I hear you. He's got the spirit. Doug from Gordo, real quick, Doug, what you got? Doug, you there?
Yeah, all right,
Go
here.
ahead, Doug, go ahead.
All right, we got Cam Newton.
Right.
We got him this weekend.
That's right.
He's playing hard.
He's coming.
He is coming strong.
That's right.
And what we going to do with him?
Well, that's the that's $1 million question, Doug, and we've been discussing it the whole game. I do think this: how well Alabama plays against Cam Newton is probably going to determine the outcome of this football.
Yeah, no question. Again, we talked about what you got to do. You can't. Defensive lineman can't penetrate past him, and even then, sometimes Gary, he's hard to defend. Nobody's figured it out. Let's just be honest.
It'll be a great chess match, though, no doubt about it. Well, up next, it's time to make our picks for the 75th Iron Bowl. Will Auburn continue their storied season, or will Alabama serve as the roadblock to Glendale for the Tigers? Stick around, because prediction time is next. Well, on Friday they'll play the game, but right now we will predict the outcome. Rodney?
You always like me to go first,
yeah.
Don't you? Well, Gary, when you look at this game, you remember last year we talked about Alabama was a team with the pressure on them. Well, this year we talked about the role reversal. Certainly the pressure is very much on Auburn. This is a huge game for Gene Chizik, huge game for Auburn, because if he doesn't beat Nick Saban this year, he may never beat him. You wonder if they're going to come in a little bit tight. That'll be interesting to watch. But I think for Alabama to win, they've got to keep Auburn under 35 points. If they do that, I think their chances improve dramatically. If they can't do that, I think they decrease dramatically. 34-28.
Well, Ronnie, one thing that's getting overlooked, I think, is the fact that Alabama has been a dominant team at home this season. Their 2 losses are on the road. Ole Miss played them the closest game at Bryant-Denny, and that game was still, Alabama was in control. I think the streak comes to an end. Auburn scores more than 30 and doesn't win. I'm picking Alabama, 35-31. The Tide gets it done. In the 75th Iron Bowl, the 50th Iron Bowl was Van Tiffin's kick. So 25 years later, Alabama gets a big win against the Auburn Tigers, according to Rodney and I. Well, it's dinner time. That means we're headed over to Buddy's Rib and Steak in Northport. Going to see all our good friends over there for dinner. Well, don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can go to the website and watch it later on tonight. John Huddleston will have it posted. So, for producer John Huddleston, my co-host Rodney Orr, our director Jennifer Hammer, and the rest of the TITV staff, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week when we recap the 75th Iron Bowl. Have a good night, everybody.